Welcome back to the channel, guys. It's Myles. Today's video, I want to talk about how much an entry-level UFC fighter in 2020 makes compared to a plumber's annual salary. I'm also going to break down exactly how fighters get paid in their fight money and sponsorships, and I'm going to give you a real-life example of a fighter that just competed on UFC 255. We're going to look at his pay, we're going to break it down, we're going to see how much money he actually walked away with at the end of the night. At this channel, we talk a lot about fighting and finance. If you haven't seen some of my videos already, I've broken down some of my real-life examples of some of the fights I've had in the UFC. How much money I've made from sponsors to the UFC, what they've paid me, bonuses behind the scenes. So check those out. Today I thought, hey, a plumber is such a strong trade to have, and being a UFC fighter is such a strong trade to have. Let's put them in the red corner, we got the plumber, and in the blue corner, we got the UFC fighter. Now, who makes more money? On top of that, I'm going to give you guys a real example from UFC 255 from this past month in November at what an entry-level, first-time fighter in the UFC made. It's no secret, when you're coming up as a mixed martial arts fighter, you want to be a UFC fighter. It's a Super Bowl of mixed martial arts. I know myself, when I was coming up in the amateur ranks and in the professional ranks, I fought a lot in King of the Cage. But I basically just fought and got to about 9-0 just so I could get into the UFC. That was always my main goal, and for a majority of fighters, that's what they want. They're not fighting just to fight or to fight to be a King of the Cage fighter. No, they want to make it into the UFC, the big show. I myself, I've had 14 fights in the UFC. I've been on the Ultimate Fighter reality season twice. I've had the past decade of my life fighting professionally, and all I've done since 2012 is I fight, I've taken my money, and I've turned the blood money into real estate money, cash flow. And that's what we love about this channel. We always talk about investing from real estate to fighting, live predictions. We love these two topics here, and it's my goal to educate and inspire people out there through martial arts and through some finance. So how does UFC Fighter Pay work? Being a mixed martial arts fighter, how does that work, right? Okay, so it starts with you get 50% of your show money is what it's called, just for going in the cage. Now, if you win, you get another 50%. So the pay is structured on incentivizing to win. It's a performance-based pay. If I show up and I fight, I get 50% of my money, but I have to win to get the other 50%. On top of that, UFC contracts are anywhere from 3 to 6 plus fights. So meaning UFC will sign you and they're going to say, look, Myles Jury, we're going to sign you for 6 fights. And you're not able to go compete in any other organizations. You're going to get this amount of money per fight, and we can cut you at any time. So meaning they can fire me at any time for any reason. Being a UFC fighter, your pay usually goes up if you win about $2,000 to $3,000 show side and win side. If you win though. So meaning if I start out and I'm making 10 and 10, 10,000 to show, 10,000 to win, and I win my fight, well, my next pay is going to be 12,000 to show, 12,000 if I win. That's what a lot of fighters are on, that type of contract. Or it can be just a yearly contract, meaning my pay stays the same all year. So if I win 3 fights at 10 and 10, that stays at 10 and 10. I don't go up at all. And that's basically what I was under when I came up in the UFC for my first 6 fights. It was an Ultimate Fighter contract, and I got paid yearly. Guys, make sure the holidays are just around the corner, and can you give me an early Christmas present? I'd be so grateful for it if you could just, boom, smash that thumbs up button, crush that subscribe button if you haven't already. The holidays are here. Please, Santa, come early. Give me that Christmas present. Now let's talk a little bit about sponsorships. Being a UFC fighter, you're in front of a ton of people. You get millions of views, hundreds of thousands of views of people tuning in for your fight. Now, depending where you fight and everything. And on top of your fighter pay, there's what's called sponsorships. And what the UFC does is they have a Reebok outfit program, and it's based off of how many fights you have in the UFC. Just like this Forbes article interviewing Ben Askren talking about his fighter pay, it explains that the tiers go from $3,500 from 0 to 5 fights, all the way up to $20,000 plus for 20 fights. So that's a whole nother extra pay outside of just what the UFC will give you for your show and your win money. And on top of that, UFC fighters usually fight between 2 to 3 times on average per year. So let me give you a real life example from UFC 255. Dustin Stoltzfus. Say that 10 times. His record is 13-2, and he ended up losing on this event. Now, according to Sports Daily, a website, it explains some of the payouts for the fighters on this card. Now, Dustin, he ended up making $10,000 to show, and he didn't win, so all he made was that $10,000. It was his first time fight in the UFC, so he made $3,500 with the Reebok sponsorship. So all in, his income for this fight was $13,500. But being a UFC fighter, or just being a mixed martial arts fighter in general, there's expenses that go around with it. Just like any other business, you have to pay for your training camp, your dieting, you have to pay for your housing. Especially if you live and you have to go out of state to train, it can get expensive. So just like any other business, it has expenses. His gym fee for this fight, let's say it's 10% of his show money, which is $1,000. Now, his management fee, let's say it's 5%. That's pretty standard, which is $500 of just his show money. He has some training expenses. This is stuff like massages, paying for body work, maybe travel, paying for your flights. And this is going to come out to, for this fight, $1,500. So for a total expenses all in, it's $3,000. Now for each fighter, it varies. I've seen some gym fees be 5%, but the standard that I've seen is 10%. And it's worth it. These are the guys that are getting you in shape. These are the coaches that are training you to go to war. And these are the team that's going to lead you into victory. And with victory is going to bring more money. So this is a good investment into you as a fighter. Now management is another one. I've paid up into 20%, but since the game's changed, lately I've seen a lot of 5 to 10% management fees. And the same thing with training fees. That can go, depending on how much you dump into your camps, that can go up a ton. I mean, I've heard Conor McGregor say that he's invested $300,000+ into certain fights. Now, on top of the income that Dustin made, he's also got to pay taxes. So let's say $2,000 for taxes for this one. So all in, his total expenses were $5,000. Now you take his total income minus his total expenses, and that brings him to a take-home pay of $8,500. That's an example, a real-life example of what a first-time fighter in the UFC is making in 2020. Now, to be fair, if Dustin would have won, he would have also made an extra $10,000, bringing his total income to right around $16,500. And also, there's what is called locker room bonuses. So what happens is UFC sometimes, if they like your performance, they're going to send you a bonus in the mail. And that ranges anywhere from $3,000 up to $10,000. Now, you really can't count on this because it just is all up to the UFC, but that's an extra way to make income from fighting. UFC gives out 4 $50,000 performance of the night bonuses in each event. Now, considering there's 12 fights on a card on average, 2 fighters per fight, that comes out to 24 total fighters, and they only give away 4 of those bonuses. You got a 16.7% chance of actually winning a bonus. But hey, that's another way that a fighter can make money. So let's compare this entry-level UFC fighter against a plumber. Who's going to make more? Now, according to salary.com, the average pay for a plumber yearly is $57,000. Now, you take into account taxes, and let's say that plumber is going to actually bring home right around $46,000, depending where they're at, what their tax bracket is at. Now for Dustin, for example, let's say he fights 3 times in this year and he loses all of his fights. Now that would make his take-home pay that he actually keeps after all of his expenses at the end of the year $25,500. So he lost all 3 fights and he's probably getting fired from the UFC. So Dustin's not only getting fired by the UFC and only making $25,000+ for the whole year, but he's also getting his butt beat in salary comparison to a plumber. A plumber is making almost double. If this was a fight, it would be basically like that plumber, head kicking him, knocking him out, winner in the red corner, plumber. Now I know some of you guys out there are saying, but wait, Myles, you're picking on the UFC. Your comparison is if he loses the whole time. So let's take a look at if Dustin actually wins all 3 of his fights. How much is he going to make compared to a plumber? Now if he wins all 3 of these fights, which is very tough to do in 1 year, especially in the UFC, he's going to take home $49,500. When you compare this to the plumber, taking home right around $46,000, he beats him, man. It's close, it's razor thin, probably a split decision, I would say, for Dustin. But hey, at the end of the day, he's winning and he's taking home more money. Guys, make sure smash that thumbs up button if you haven't already. It really helps out the channel. So depending on which way you slice it, a plumber can make more money than a UFC fighter, especially an entry-level UFC fighter. But if that fighter is actually winning fights, he can make just a little over what your average annual salary of a plumber. But when you have a tough night at the office being a mixed martial arts fighter, you're basically out in front of the whole world in your underwear fighting, and not only do you get beat, but you could possibly only be walking away in the Super Bowl of mixed martial arts with only $8,500 in your pocket. Now, the best way to make money by fighting, especially in the UFC, is to go out there, win fights, and win in vicious fashion, knocking people out, and basically getting yourself into a position where you're convincing Dana White and the UFC to pay you more money. The top 10 to 15% of the UFC fighters make a majority of the money, and this is how I like it. I mean, this is capitalism at its finest. If you're the best in the business, you're crushing the competition, you're making the money, and that's what America's about. Now, I really would like to see some changes in the fight game, especially in the UFC. Stuff like fighters having a guaranteed 3 fights, or whatever their contract is, they cannot be fired until they get all of those fights. Maybe get rid of this whole win bonus. I think personally, a fighter that's going to go out there and fight, especially in front of the world, he's going to want to win regardless. Whether you throw an extra money on the table, he's still going to want to win, because nobody wants to get beat up in front of the whole world, in front of their family. And when you throw in the fact that a win bonus, that sometimes can just hurt a fighter, because you're trying, it's like perceived pressure. You think you have to win because you need that extra money, compared to just going out there and saying, you know what, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to go out there, put it all on the line, and I'm going to be in my zone. Sometimes people can get nervous because they're so focused on that win bonus. So I really think get rid of that, have just one base salary, especially at the lower levels coming up. And then as you get higher, you can have those, higher bonuses, you can have those higher pays. But to make this being a mixed martial arts fighter sustainable more, I think there just has to be a little bit more base salary, guaranteed money off tops. I don't know if that's going to happen. The fight game is what it is. It's a vicious game. It's a tough game. But the whole point of this video and this channel is just to understand the rules of the game you're playing, so you can have better chances at playing it to your advantage and winning. Let me know what you guys think. How much should an entry-level fighter be guaranteed to be paid when going into their first fight? Win, lose, or draw. If you're stuck and you've hung around to this whole video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already, and subscribe. And I'm going to be giving out coaching calls, so if you're interested in those, the link is in the description, how you can sign up. We can talk about anything from mixed martial arts to finance to real estate to trading. Anything you want, guys, I'm here for you. And I'll see you guys next time.